Well, I'm now joined by Christina Smedley, who is the Chief Brands and Communication Officer at PayPal via video conference from the heart of Silicon Valley. First of all, Christina, many congratulations to you and to PayPal for your performance on the BrandZ Top 100 Most Valuable Global Brands for 2015. A 20% increase in brand value and an increase of 9 places in the rankings. Well, for those of you who are not absolutely familiar with the history of PayPal, PayPal was conceived in 1998 and only a few years later in 2002 had its IPO. And in that very same year it was snapped up very quickly by eBay and became a wholly owned subsidiary. And now it's in the process of being spun off by eBay as a separate traded company. So thanks very much again for the time. Maybe let's start at the very beginning, which is given the fact that that PayPal has been around during, I suppose, probably the most disruptive times in sort of e-commerce, in retailing and trading. How would you now define what the role of PayPal is?
Thank you for the introduction, and that's a great way of sort of encapsulating what PayPal has been over the last 15 years. I think that the way we look at ourselves now is that we are a digital payments platform. We aim to be very ubiquitous and to be able to be used across any device, any platform, any operating system, to enable consumers to move and manage their money very simply and effectively all over the world, but also for merchants to enable them to get the best out of the relationships that they have with their customers and to enable their businesses to thrive. We have 165 million customers who use us every year, and what's most interesting when you talk about the dynamic changes that we've all lived through over the last 10 years or so is that it's all driven by mobile. So we, in Q1 of this year, made 1 billion payments within the quarter, and over 30% of those were made using a mobile device. So that's where we see the future going and where we're thinking about springboarding, but it's all with the sort of center of enabling consumers, people to move their money, and also merchants to thrive.
Many smart companies and smart retailers now have this sort of philosophy of mobile first and other platforms later. I mean, given what you've seen in terms of the way in which there's a change in the nature of transactions, would you say that that mobile first strategy is something that should be encompassed by many, many more clients?
Yes, we would. We've seen great results by building and engineering our products to work on those tiny mobile screens that we work with, be it a wearable or on your smartphone. I think really though the mobile as a tool for people to engage with brands the importance of that can never be forgotten. But it's only really valuable if it enables the customer to get something that they perhaps wouldn't normally have had. So it might be a more simpler, secure checkout. It might be, we have something called One Touch, which enables you just to put your details in once and then use it all over the web. And when you think about that, putting your details in on a mobile phone, it's hard, right? Because it's small and you have to type. But with things like One Touch for Web, we're taking that sort of friction out of the experience, and we're able to enable people to use and get what they want simply and securely.
Good brands are used by their customers. Great brands have a place in the lives of their customers. What place in the lives of your customers does PayPal have?
I think we are consistently seen as the most trusted brand in digital payments. So people know that when they use PayPal, their money is secure. We protect them if they're a seller, and we protect them if they're a buyer. I think the opportunity in the future will be to move to that everyday essentiality, that as the omni-channel world changes and the on and offlines blur, using the mobile at the heart of it is going to be the opportunity for us as a brand and other brands to develop that really deep relationship with people.
Well, we'll come on to talk a little bit more about trust, because I think it's sort of fundamental now in the way in which e-commerce is or isn't going to develop at a more rapid rate. But before we move on to that, one of the things that we've, I suppose, seen over the course of the 10 years of doing brand valuations is the astronomical rise in the brand valuations of technology companies. And I suppose there in the past has been a conflict between technology companies seeing themselves being a technology at heart versus being a brand company. And I just wonder how you at PayPal view yourself in the technology side of the spectrum or very much as a brand company.
So, slightly, maybe I'll take a different pivot on that. We get asked many times whether we're a financial services company or a technology company. And actually, our response is we're a customer company, and that actually means we have to live our brand and live our brand values very effectively. So it's very easy when you work in the Valley and you're part of a technology organization to get really stuck on the actual brilliance of the innovation that your engineers and your product designers are coming out with. And some of these things are truly amazing. But when they come to life in the hands of real people, it's the magic of being able to do something that you hadn't been able to do simply and easily and safely again, and reiterating that through your brand promise that enables, I think, brands to perform and grow. So we like to say we're a customer company, not a technology company or a financial company, but actually that's imbued with the brand spirit that we're trying to bring to the market consistently.
Well, I think that's a nice spectrum. And within the context of that spectrum then, when you're employing a new engineer or talking to really sort of technical people, how do you get them to understand what the brand's about so that they can innovate in a way that is true to the character, the nature and the promise of the brand?
We talk a lot about our customers. We make sure that pretty much everybody in our teams spends some time at the front line. We have 8,000 people all over the world who work in customer service. And when you sit next to those people who are on the phones taking calls from individuals who have questions about their accounts or want to know what they can do to improve their business, you really understand the essence of what PayPal can be. So that is completely part of how we bring people into the organization, and it really has meant that we have a line where we talk about powering potential, but it's actually the people that are powering potential for the people that we serve around the world. And that's something that the business has really responded to well. And we believe it's one of our key brand attributes that we need to continue to grow and evolve through.
Well, I suppose the last 18 months can be characterized as the annus horribilis for security and payments in the retail space. Many chief executives have lost their jobs on the back of security breaches. Clearly you sit in the forefront and the intersection of transactions and security. What are you doing in order to make sure that security is at the forefront of both the brand and also your relationships with the consumers? You've talked about that sort of bond of trust.
It's a responsibility we take incredibly seriously, and we invest millions of dollars every year in addressing any particular concerns that cyber criminals might have. I think that it's very easy to think about risk as being something that you just do once and it stops or solves a transaction. But actually risk has to be part of everything that the business thinks about, because you can reduce your fraud rates by just not letting people use their money. But the skill is actually being able to use the data that you have in a really meaningful and trusted way so that it's secure and that customers know that we're operating for their best interests, but also imbuing that with new techniques and new capabilities, some of which we just don't talk about, that enable us to really understand what people are doing so that we know that they're genuine and that we can put that kind of transaction through. And that's something that we dedicate huge amounts of resource to. The other thing with PayPal is you're protected with buyer or seller protection either way. So we really feel that we offer a great position of strength for our brand, and that's why I think consistently we are called the #1 brand in digital payments for trust, and it's something that we work very hard at maintaining.
I mean, clearly there is a conflict in a sense between trying to make everything as frictionless as possible, but yet being as secure as possible. And I suppose it's a testament to the PayPal brand that you now have the capacity, in a sense, to introduce frictionless but secure payments.
That's what technology enables, to be honest, because you're able to take information or small snippets of information to create a story about the consumer or the merchant that you're trying to assist, and then you can build out capabilities from there. I mean, one of the really interesting things we have, we've just launched credit and working capital for businesses and credit for consumers. Now, because we know how you operate as a customer, which might be different than a FICO score, for instance, in the States, which only looks at one particular moment in time, we're able to perhaps offer you a better loan with better rates because we know how you've behaved, because we've been able to look at the data that you've provided and shared with us. And that's the kind of skill that we're beginning to see come through in the work that we do around risk and fraud, which actually will enable people to thrive and should make them being able to move and manage their money a little bit cheaper and a little bit safer.
Well, you've spoken a lot about the concept of the people-powered economy. Perhaps you can explain a little bit about this and about how you see it developing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we know the scale of where PayPal operates. 165 million people worldwide. We're in 203 markets. It's hard to do financial payments at that scale. But what we really wanted to do was to remember and ensure that we put at the center of everything we do the people that we serve. And so when we created our brand platform and our brand philosophy, we really did take a step change. I think we talked about it a little bit earlier about, we weren't a tech company, we were a people company and a customer company, to put that at the heart of everything we do. And you do see that imbued throughout the whole organization now, from orientation to how we talk to people in email, how we talk to people in all the different channels that we engage in, how our website has evolved to enable people to get to what they want faster. It has really all been centered around people, and we really do talk about the people-powered economy because ultimately that's the way the global business environment is going. It's much more centered around communities now, and those are built by humans just like you and me. And as a brand that services them, we shouldn't forget that at all.
Well, you're in a market that's consistently changing, reinventing itself, especially the ever sort of increasing influence on the new millenniums and their now sort of both buying power and what it is they're looking for. On a more general level, what do you see the key challenges in the future for brand builders in this new age?
Well, we like to say that the digital payment space, or money, is going to change at a rate that we've never seen before. It will probably change more in the next 5 years than it has in the last 30. And that's being driven by a group of people that we call mobile movers. They are sort of in the sweet spot of millennials because, you have to think about millennials, the oldest being in their 30s now, where they have mortgages and need credit. So that's why we're thinking about new services like credit and working capital that will enable them to work differently and borrow money differently. We also know that this group think about financial institutions in a different way and are looking to brands and organizations to disrupt in a positive way the environments in which they can use and spend their money. And so that's something we're really focused on at PayPal. But it is truly all built around the power of the mobile device and what that enables consumers to do and how merchants should respond to that. And because we're end-to-end, so we're one of the few organizations in financial services that have both consumers and merchants, we really believe that we sit at that sweet spot to be able to enable our brand to tell the types of stories and share the types of offers and messaging that these consumers will respond to.
And what new skills do you think marketeers are going to need in order to be able to convince these new consumers with new ideas, maybe with new payment methods, that one product is superior to another? The same techniques as before, or is it going to be everything up for grabs?
You know, great marketing comes from great ideas that are translated into great stories. And I actually don't think that will change because we're all human and we respond to brands in that way. What I'm thinking about a lot though is how do I use technology to build communities in a digital world, and what does that technology need to do to be both personalized but also effective and cost effective for me to be able to reach the numbers of people that I need to get to make sure that I'm delivering everyday essentiality. So those are the two pieces that I'm talking about a lot, community and the technology that will drive that community.
Christina Smedley, the Chief Brands and Communication Officer of PayPal, thank you very much indeed for joining us, and very best wishes for your spin-off as a separately traded company, and congratulations on your performance in the BrandZ Top 100 Most Valuable Global Brands for 2015.
Thank you, we're delighted to be part of it. Thank you.